Welcome back, everyone, to Freaky Tales Podcast, episode 49. We're almost at 50, so hopefully the next time we have Marvelous here, it will be episode 50 as half 100. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody who's in the live chat, everybody who liked, commented, subscribed, everybody who's having fun on the live chat. It's always hilarious. A lot of people say that it's always very, very comical on the live chat. So I want to thank everybody for coming over and having a good time. I got some good things lined up that I want to talk about, some serious things lined up. But first and foremost, I hope everybody had a great, great Thanksgiving. You know, some people are not as fortunate as others. I've known some people that told me that they just ate fast food because they don't have a family. And I've had others that have just told me, you know, I have a family and we had a great time. So I always keep in consideration those that are less fortunate than us. So once again, I hope everybody had a blessed Thanksgiving. Other than that, next Friday, Marvelous will be here as well. You know, I like to try to get these in because I like to try to do some solo teaching, things that have been in my heart for a long time that I would like to share, that I find very interesting, very educational, and I think very useful for wisdom and knowledge. I'm going to talk a little bit about, well, let's just hold on to that. I want to touch on something that had been trending, at least on my end, and it's something called the Jersey Devil. And I just want to bring it up just a little bit. Maybe later on we'll get a little bit more into it. But it's called the Jersey Devil. And let's go ahead and bring those two pictures up. There's one. It's an actual bat, and this picture was taken in Africa, and there it is there. And this is an actual bat, and this one right here, we can move it to the other side of the screen, is what we find online. And let me just give you a little bit of history, and I'm sure you could read it there. And this is in South Jersey, the United States. The Jersey Devil, also known as the Leeds Devil, is a legendary creature said to inhabit the forests of Pine Barrens in South Jersey. The creature is often described as a flying biped with hooves. I think I read that wrong. Okay, but there are many variations. The common description is a kangaroo-like creature with a horse-goat-like head, leathery like wings, horns, small arms, and claw hands, legs with cloven hooves, and forked tail. So I've never seen one, but I've been to Jersey several times. And there's a lot of woods. As a matter of fact, where I was at, whether you go north, south, east, west, or whatnot, it's always 45 minutes to get to like the next city. So you go through a lot of woods. So I actually heard about this Jersey Devil when I was there. I didn't want to do a study on it because I don't know too much of it, but somebody forwarded me this picture of this actual bat, and some people believe that that may be a Jersey Devil that was brought here from Africa, and it just lived in this part of the woods. And some people have seen it, some people have not seen it. But overall, I just thought it was interesting. So if you guys want to look up this freaky tale, the Jersey Devil, and look it up online, and all the info will be there. So you could take that down now, Alex. But I just thought, once again, that was interesting for us to bring up. Let me get to my notes here, because I want to get into something that has been trending, and I think it's vital for us to know what's going on in our schools system, especially for those of you that have young kids or people like me that have grandchildren, okay? And this is in Tehachapi. Tehachapi Golden Hills Elementary School is getting a new after-school club, but it's not your typical dance or photography club. Instead, they'll be getting the after-school Satan Club, sponsored by Satanic Temple and Reason Alliance. So you can actually look this up. This is all public knowledge. Tehachapi Golden Hills Elementary School. And now they're going to be having a Satanic Club for anyone who wants to join in. My thing is this, prayer was taken out of school many, many years ago. And you know who it was by? One woman. One woman was able to get prayer out of school, okay? She said that people were forcing religion down children's throats. This country was built on biblical principles, not on perfect men, but on biblical principles. So, and many universities here in the United States were at one point Christian universities. Now, I'm not saying I'm a Christian or I'm a Catholic or I'm a religious person at all. But what I am sharing is that at one point, many of these schools taught the Bible. That's what they did. It freaked me out when I heard that, because I didn't know this when I was in my 20s. But prayer was taken out of schools. One thing that I got a lot when we hear about these tragic stories where these schools are being shot at, kids are being killed, teachers are being killed. Because I've studied the scriptures, because I've studied history, people have always asked me, and in many times in an accusing way, they'll say, well, where was God? Where was God? Why did God allow these kids to die? Why did God allow these teachers to die? Why did God allow this? So, and many times, these are people that don't claim, they don't even believe in God, but yet they're asking me, where was God? My thing and my only answer is this. You guys didn't want God in school. You guys kicked him out a long time ago. So why are you asking, where is God? So now, we kicked God out of school, okay? But now we want to bring Satan into the school. Now, some of you that may consider yourself Satanists may say, Tony, it's not what you think. Here's my thing. When I think of Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Belial, Lord of the Flies, etc., I can't say that anything good can come out of it, especially giving that to the children and making a club out of it. I mean, just think about it. What is going to be taught there? What is going to be said there? Let me read a little bit more. There's after school Satan, okay? It says, we're not interested in converting children to Satanism. After school Satan clubs will focus on free inquiry and rationalism. The scientific basis for which we know what we know about the world around us. We prefer to give children an appreciation of the nature wonders surrounding them, not a fear of everlasting otherworldly horrors. Look, I read this several times today. I actually went on their website because they do have a website. And the website is Satanic Temple Alliance or the Satanic Temple Reason Alliance. But look it up, the Satanic Temple, and they're going around to many different schools and asking, if they would like to start up a club. They say, well, there's already religious clubs. Let me say something. I shared this before at another episode. I don't recall what episode. There was a Christian club that one of my friends, he's a regular church attender. And he was asked to go speak at this school. It's this after school club. somewhat, I guess, a Bible study or word of encouragement of some sort. And he was met by the principal at the door. And the principal told him this. So you're going to be the teacher today, right? He goes, yes, for 30 minutes. And he said, okay. You could say anything, you just can't say the name Jesus. That's what he said. You just can't say the name Jesus. You could just say, leave it in general, say God. That's what he said. Well, he's a firm believer, and this is a friend of mine. He's a firm believer that Jesus is his Savior, so how could he not say the name that he worships? Okay. So he told the school principal that he changed his mind. If he cannot speak freely, if he cannot practice his constitutional rights, have freedom of speech or freedom of religion, then he wasn't going to speak because he wasn't going to allow somebody to control him, control what he said. And they said, okay. But now it's okay to say Satan. You know, you can't say one name. And what he got really upset about, the principal never told him, you cannot say Allah, you cannot say Muhammad, you cannot say Buddha, you cannot say Krishna, you cannot say Mary, you cannot say in any number of the name of the saints. All he said was you cannot say Jesus. So that's why he left. But today, obviously, your kids could join a satanic club and learn about Satan. And they're saying they're not trying to recruit these children and to become Satanists. So what is the purpose of this? When you guys get a chance, I encourage you guys to go look at that website. And they also have handbooks that you could download and you could see, you know, from the website, they have a picture of a devil. They have the pentagram, the satanic Baphomet pentagram. It's all satanic, okay? Now, I know there's different Satanists believe in different things. I understand that. But I wouldn't want, you know, my child or my grandson to be a part of some club. You know, and I want to do something a little different today. Alice, can you put on there, would you allow your child to join a satanic club in school? So if you could word it something like that. Okay. So I know I wouldn't, and maybe at the end or maybe in about 30, 40 minutes, we'll get the vote, but I wouldn't. And maybe other parents feel differently, but, you know, I just don't know what good can come out of it, especially with the name like Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, or whatnot. So let us move on. The first subject that I want to talk about is something that I believe will have a major role in the last days. And the reason why I say the last days, I received a DM after last week's episode, I believe it was episode 48 with Marvelous here. And somebody said that he started reading the Bible because we had encouraged him here. He said he had never heard to read the Bible like a history book. You know, I tell people, please do not look at it as a religious book. Do not. Anybody can read it. Growing up Catholic, we were always taught that only the priests are eligible or are worthy enough to study the holy book. So growing up Catholic as a kid, we always saw the Bible opened up, you know, because we were told that if you open it up and leave it on top of your TV, it's good luck. So we left it open. So what I'm saying is that I finally picked it up and I started reading it. And I was so blessed by it. And when I share that, I don't say that to try to convert or to try to tell anyone what church to go to. I would never do that. As a matter of fact, some of you have hit me up and have asked me, what church should I attend? And you know what I tell them? If you really want to go to church, if you do, I will never tell you what church to attend. But here's what I would do. I would encourage you to pick up the book and read it yourself. Just like I would encourage you to pick up any other history book and read it yourself so you can inform and educate yourself. Then read it from Genesis to Revelation, okay? If you guys want to read the Apocrypha, the other history books that are in the Catholic Church, be my guest, it's good history. But now, after you have read that book and you have a good foundation of what it says, then go to church. And if whatever that man says behind that pulpit does not match up with what you read, go find another church. That's what I tell people. Because what he is saying has to match what has been written in this book. As with anything, I always tell people to question things. And that's why we like to open up the phone lines so that you guys can question where we get our info, or why do we say that, or why don't I believe this, or, thank you for this episode or whatnot. So somebody said that they started reading the book of Revelation. Me being a futurist, meaning I believe that the book of Revelation is still in the future and major events still have to take place and happen before some of these things that I'm about to read are going to take place. We already see many of them already happening, so we know where it's leading. So somebody said, do you believe that we are in the last days? Yes. Where do you see us in 40 years from now? And I said this, I don't see us here 40 years from now. That's what I said, and you guys can interpret that any way you guys want. So he said, I read something and I didn't know what it was. And I'm going to read to you the scripture that he read and that he sent me. And then I'm going to try my best to my ability. And I challenge you guys to do your research when I share this word study that I'm going to give you. For an example, it's found in Revelation 21, verse 8. And this is still yet to happen, but I believe it has been happening for a long time, but it's only going to escalate. Okay. Revelation 21, verse 8. But the cowardly, unbelieving, abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. I'm going to read this one more part, and I'm going to just touch on one word that I believe is somewhat of a bad translation into the English. And this is the word that he asked me. But the cowardly, unbelieving, abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers. He asked me, what did the Apostle John mean by sorcerers? Okay. First and foremost, understand that the New Testament was written in Greek, ancient Greek. Okay. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew, the Hebrew language. Certain parts were written in Aramaic, which is a sister language to the Hebrew language during the time of Jesus. And as a matter of fact, Jesus spoke Aramaic, and the common language to speak during that time was also Greek. And remember, Israel during that time was under Roman occupation. Rome was there. So, sorcerer in the Greek is a word called Pharmakia. Pharmakia. So you have to go back to the original language to when you don't understand something. He thought sorcerer meant maybe somebody that casts spells. Yes, I do believe that could be translated that, but in the original language, it means something totally different. Pharmakia, and I think you'll understand where I'm going with this once I tell you where we get our English word from. We get our word pharmacy from the word Pharmakia. What do they sell at a pharmacy? Drugs. So that is the word there. So let me read just a little bit more. What is a drug? It could be translated a healing or a harmful medicine, a healing or a poisonous herb, a drug, poisonous potion, magic potion, dye, raw material, or physical or chemical processing. Okay. Now, let's read that again with the English word in it. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, or drugs, drug dealers, drug users, idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone. Anything that alters the mind is what's considered a drug. Let me just read some scriptures that maybe you guys can go back and rewind when after this show is up, or you can write them down right now if you like. The Greek word Pharmakia appears in Galatians 5:20. So when you see the word sorcerer, that's that word Pharmakia. And in Revelation 18:23. Also Revelation 9:21. Also Revelation 21:8, which is the scripture we just read. And Revelation 22:15. These are typically translated into English as sorcery or witchcraft or sorcerer. Ancient Greek uses pharmakia closely minor to the generic modern English word drugs. The same Greek root word produced English terms such as pharmacy and pharmacist. Okay. The reason why I believe the scriptures come down really hard on people who sell it and use it is because of what it is doing to the person that is taking it. Now, I told this person to tune in, and if he had an opportunity to go ahead and call in, hopefully I'm able to answer everything correctly as much as I could in a timely manner. I do believe, because his other question was, do you believe if you bring drugs home, can that open a door, or he used the word portal, for something evil to come in? And I said, yes. Yes. I'm not sure if I ever shared this story or not. And the reason why I'm going to share it again is because I think it's vital to this word, pharmakia, pharmacy, pharmacist, drugs. I had a buddy of mine that wasn't doing too good financially. And he was married, had 3 kids at the time, living in a 1-bedroom apartment. He called up his brother for help. He knew his brother was a drug dealer. He knew. And he called him up for help, and he just said, hey, I need to borrow. And he told me the exact number. I just won't give his name. I'll say his name is Bobby. Okay, that's just a made up name. He called up his brother and said, I need to borrow $500. And his brother said, don't worry, I'll take care of you. I'll give you more than that. That's what he said. Okay, cool. His brother shows up and he gives him a box of shoes, just one box of shoes. And he gives it to Bobby, his older brother. And he says, here you go. This is for you. Well, he didn't look inside the shoes, so he just opened it up and he saw a pair of shoes, some Nike shoes. And he got really upset and said, man, I thought you were going to help me out. And he said, I am. Here you go. This is for you. He didn't understand it, why he would give him a pair of shoes when he needed to borrow $500. And his brother told him, I'll give you more than that. So what he did, since his apartment was only 1 bedroom, he put it on top in the children's room where his children slept. He put it on top in the, I guess, a closet or whatnot. He said he slept in the living room. And he slept on the floor because they were hurting. He was barely, making ends meet. And he said he woke up because he felt not only somewhat of a wind, but also a presence. And he looked, he said, at the door leading into his children's room. And these were just babies. And he said he saw something that looked like a shadow of a big, husky man. He said this guy must have been maybe around 6'6", 6'7", standing right at the door of my children's room. He said, the first thing that I thought, this thing wants my children. This thing wants my children. He said he was terrified. He said he closed his eyes and he began to pray. And he said at that point he felt two legs walking on top of his legs. And he got so terrified that he uncovered his face from his blanket. And it was his daughter. And his daughter said, Daddy, can I sleep with you? And he said, okay. Are you okay, baby? I'm scared. This is what her daughter said. He hugs his daughter. They close their eyes. Now he feels another pair of legs walking on top. Now this is his son. Daddy, can I sleep with you? Now the only one who's left in the room is the baby that's in a crib. And he said that one of his kids was able to see what was standing there in front of the door, even to the point that she told the daddy, who's that? Who's that? Well, he got up, turned on the lights, grabbed his baby, went to the living room, and had all his kids there. Turned off the lights. They're all going to bed. He wakes up. He still sees that image of a man, that tall, husky man, like a silhouette, standing there. And like he told me, se me prendió el foco, the light turned on. So he gets up, turns on the lights, and he goes and grabs that shoebox. And he opens it. And he's wondering, what is this? Where's the money or what? So he starts looking in one shoe, nothing. He opens up the other shoe, and a baggie falls out. And he said it was about $1,000 worth of crystal meth. And he knew exactly what it was. His brother had been trying to get him back into the game. And he had left that game to get a job, raise his family. He got so angry that he had called his brother and told him, why did you do this? He was more scared. And his brother said, just sell it. It's $1,000 worth. So what he did, because his children meant more, he just ended up, according to him, his story, he just ended up flushing it down the toilet. He said he ended up praying over his home, his little apartment, and his children. Never experienced anything like that again. So he asked me, what do you think happened? And I said, no, I think by you allowing that Pharmakia, those drugs in your house, opened up a door. It definitely did. And it invited something evil into your home. You know, many times you can walk into somebody's house and you could just see in Spanish, they say, un desmadre. Mom and dad fighting. Brothers arguing. The house is just in shambles. And one guy tells me this. This is one of my friend's house. I just told him, there's no peace here, man. There's nothing here. And he said, well, you know what? I think it all started as soon as my brother started slanging. As soon as my brother started selling. I do believe that you can invite something into your home when you bring in Pharmakia or drugs into your home. I do believe that. I do believe that whether you want to call it a portal or whether you want to call it a door, I do believe that there is a door that opens up. Just like I believe that when you play with the Ouija board, that I do believe it opens up doors, especially one day when I read the instructions on a Ouija board. And it said that this board was created not for you to contact them, but for them to contact you. That's what the Ouija board was made for them. Who is them? Why would they want to contact me? It's a good question. And yet we have children Ouija boards now, glow-in-the-dark children Ouija boards. Now you have one that I believe I shared last week. I think it's called the Holy Spirit board, where you can talk to Jesus himself, play the board game. I said sarcastically, don't pray, just play. Now you can talk to Jesus yourself through this board game. My thing is this. there are people that have allowed certain things into their homes and have interpreted them as, oh, maybe they're guardian angels. Maybe it's a loved one. I always had a problem with that. And I don't try to talk down on people or try to take that away from them, because many people do believe that it could be a loved one for them. I've just never been one to believe that. I believe that when one person is gone, you're gone. I've never believed that the spirit wanders around. And I know there's people that believe that. And believe me, I get it. Because at one point I did too. So I don't knock them for that. I really, really do not. But can you imagine believing that something is a loved one and they're in your home and you start to embrace it, and then eventually this thing starts getting violent? And believe me, I've had friends that have thought that this person was their mother or this person was their father. And eventually this thing, whatever it was, started to get violent with them because they invited them in. They opened the door for them to come in and get comfortable. So what I'm saying is I hope, first and foremost, that I was able to at least break down that one word, because there's other things on here that I could have shared. For an example, the cowardly. What does that mean? Maybe next time I'll cover that. The unbelieving. Unbelieving in what? Murderers. Idolaters. And it even says liars will have their part in the lake of fire. Like, how much do you have to lie to have a part into the lake of fire? You know, when I had Gil Carrillo here, the retired detective who helped bring Richard Ramirez to justice, he said, and I'm not sure if he said it on the show or after, but he had said that Richard Ramirez asked him, what do I have to do to get the death penalty? In other words, for them to kill me. And he said, you're going to have to talk to your lawyer about that. This is the man that went around killing people. And yet he himself wanted to die for what he did. Sometimes it makes me wonder what possesses a man to do these things. And we're going to get into that because that's my next topic. If you want me to talk a little bit more on the Pharmakia or some of these other topics, please DM me either on my Tony Vision page that's on the live chat. That's the one I'm on 90% of the time. The Freaky Tales podcast, I just post and I get out. But you can also call later and speak to me and ask me. And I'll try to give my best in a timely manner. But if you want me to elaborate a little bit more next time, then I will take my time and elaborate a little bit more. But I said, what possesses a man to go out and kill people and yet ask, what can I do to get the death penalty? So this guy wanted to die. And when he was caught, he was only 25 years old. 25 years old. So what possesses a man? Probably the devil. And why do I say that? Oh, he was in court. What did he say? Hail Satan. When he killed people, what did he do? He left pentagrams. Now I know some of you out there are probably watching and saying, well, different Satanists, believe differently. I'll give you guys that. All you guys believe. I met 3 different types of Satanists now. So, and now they're moving into the schools. Okay, so this is somebody that I believe was demonically possessed. And that's why I wished that Gil Carrillo would have looked a little bit more into that. But he brought him to justice, and I guess that was good enough. Now, demon possessions. And I want to talk about there's different types of demon possessions. Different types. Some people, when they think of demonic possession, they think of The Exorcist. And that's as far as it goes. Well, that's Hollywood's version of demonic possession. That's Hollywood's version. It never comes like that. Tony, how do you know? Have you ever seen any person demonically possessed? Absolutely. 3 different occasions I have. 3 different occasions. Many of them have incredible strength. And many of them have a lot of knowledge because they know who they're talking to. I'm going to give you a story from Mark chapter 9, verse 17 to 29. There's quite a bit of reading, but please bear with me. The reason why I give you guys the scriptures, because I want to challenge you guys for you guys to read it yourself. I'll be reading from the New King James translation. I'm going to give you 3 different types of demonic possessions. 3 different types. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because many times, I believe this, there are people that are ill, that are sick, and the doctors cannot find out what is wrong with them. And many of you guys have abuelitas, abuelitos, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters. And you guys have spent so much money, not only insurance and co-payments, and they're just for some reason not getting better, and they've suffered for so long. You know what? It may not be a medical condition. And in order for me to explain that, please allow me to read to you for you to get a better understanding. Because sometimes it could be something spiritual. It could be something spiritual. And that's why a lot of these doctors can never find out what is wrong with certain people. And this is a story. If you care to read it yourself, Jesus is walking through a village. And this man brought his son to his disciples, but they could not cast this demonic spirit out. And one thing that I really liked about this reading is that Jesus is very stern. He's not a soft man. So please allow me to read starting from verse 17. And then one of the crowd answered and said, "Teacher, I brought you my son, who has a mute spirit, a mute spirit. And whenever it seizes him, what's the demonic spirit? Whenever it seizes him, it throws him down. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid." So whenever it seizes him, meaning that it goes and it comes, that this spirit goes and it comes. Somehow this child left this door open somehow. So the people spoke to your disciples that they should cast it out, but they could not. And look at the way Jesus answers. And he answered and said, "O faithless generation, how long should I be with you? How long should I bear with you?" And he says, "Bring him to me, bring the child to me." Then they brought him to him. And when he saw him, immediately the spirit convulsed him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed, foaming at the mouth. So he asked his father, "How long has this been happening to him?" Think about this. They bring the kid, he goes into convulsions. Some people said that he was an epileptic, that these were seizures, but that this spirit would come and go. So Jesus asks the father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And he said, "From childhood. And often he has torn him into both fire and into water to destroy him." So now we also have a spirit of suicide. Not only is he going into convulsions like a seizure type, not only does he foam at the mouth, but this thing throws him into the fire or throws him into the water trying to kill him. This thing, whatever it was, this spirit has consumed him so much that even the disciples couldn't cast him out. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. And Jesus said to him, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes." Immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." Now let me explain that. He said, "I believe, but help my unbelief." And many parents, I believe, go through this. They want to have faith in something that their child or their brother or their mother or their father is going to get better. They believe, but now they're saying, but at the same time, I doubt. And I understand why. Because many times a lot of people probably spend time praying and hoping and wondering that their loved ones will get better. And they see no progress. So really what the Father is saying, I want to believe. Yes, I believe, but I've been doing so much. I possibly took him to doctors. I took him to your disciples. I took him everywhere and nothing. Help my unbelief. I want to believe. So when Jesus saw that the people came running together, in other words, a crowd was beginning to draw, he wasn't interested in giving them a show. He rebuked the unclean spirit. So he called it an unclean spirit, saying to it, deaf and dumb spirit, I command you, come out of him and enter him no more. Then the spirit cried out, convulsed him greatly, and came out of him. And he became as one dead, so that many said, he is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he had come into the house, his disciples asked him. So now let's just touch something really quick. He said, deaf and dumb spirit. Not only could he not speak, but he could not hear. Not only was he going into convulsions and foaming at the mouth, but the spirit was also throwing him into the fire and throwing him into the water. Can you understand what the Father here was going through? And believe me, I know what a lot of parents go through. I've had friends that their children were sick and passed away and they had to bury them. It's not a good thing. So I understand when somebody says, help my unbelief. Please help me. I want to believe. So the disciples saw this. And I think this is very, very important. This is why I say stay away from certain translations of the Bible. For an example, the New International, the NIV. It's the same thing. The New International, the NIV translation. Because this next verse is taken out of those Bibles. So the disciples asked him, why couldn't we cast it out? Why couldn't we? And this is what he told them. Who's he? Jesus. So he said to them, this kind can only come out by nothing but prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting. So that gives us a picture of what he was like. He was a praying man and a fasting man. Okay? I don't have time to get into what fasting is. Look it up. But the disciples couldn't cast out this deaf and dumb spirit. This spirit that, if you will, was an epileptic spirit as well. And also one that was a suicidal spirit that would throw him into the fire and into the water. Now, at this time, I'm sure his father sought help for his son because this spirit would come and go. It would come and go. And it had been taking his child since he's been a child now, since he was a young lad, if you will. Now, so that's one type. Let's look at another. And this is from Luke 13:10. Luke 13:10, and we're talking about demonic possession. There's no other book, and I've searched, believe me. And if you can, help me out and show me a book that talks more about demonic possession than the actual Bible. None of this sounds religious to you, does it? Because there's nothing religious about it. Luke 13:10, 13:10 through 14. Now, as he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath. For those of you guys who don't know what a synagogue is, many Jewish people, religious Jewish people still, they don't call it church the way most people call it churches. They don't call it a mosque. They call it a synagogue. And right now would be considered Sabbath. At sundown on Friday, Sabbath. The Sabbath ends at sundown on same time on Saturday. So right now would be the beginning of the Sabbath. Tomorrow at this time, as around, I would say when the sun goes down, that's the end of the Sabbath. So he was teaching in the synagogue on the Sabbath. And behold, there was a woman who had a spirit of infirmity. A spirit of infirmity. How long did this woman have it? 18 years. And was bent over and could in no way raise herself up. So this woman was literally hunched over for 18 years. She probably did not even know that she had an unclean infirmity spirit. How did that spirit get in there? How did the spirit cripple her? So as he's teaching, she walks in, okay? Let me finish reading. And was bent over and could in no way raise herself up. But when Jesus saw her, he called her to him and said to her, "Woman, you are loosed from your infirmity." You are loosed from your infirmity. And he laid his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight and glorified God. Now I'm going to stop there. He didn't touch the boy with the first story. He spoke to the spirit. Here he speaks to the woman and says, "You are loosed." Then he touches her. Something that the scriptures call laying on of hands, meaning he's transferring something from him to her for her to be healed of 18 years of this infirmity. She was hunched over. So something from him transferred. Now, when I first read that, I thought that was amazing. What was that? Thought it was amazing. He stops his teaching just to heal this woman. Okay? Now look what happens. Look at the reaction that he got for doing something good, possibly healing somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother, somebody's sister, somebody's wife. And look at the reaction of the synagogue. But the ruler of the synagogue answered with indignation, because Jesus, or the Hebrew word Yeshua, had healed on the Sabbath. And he said to the crowd, "There are 6 days on which men ought to work. Therefore come and be healed on them, and not on the Sabbath." So just this lady's luck that she was healed on Saturday, the wrong day. Now let me ask you guys this. Hypothetically, God forbid, this is just a hypothetical scenario. Say you walk in somewhere, you guys have spent all your money, your mom's not getting any better. Doctors probably told her she only has about 6 months. You guys don't even have enough money to even bury her. You guys barely have enough to eat. And you guys are going through it. And somebody walks up to your mother and says, "Woman, thou art loosed," lays his hands, and after being 18 years sick, she stands up, and now she's made whole, she's complete, she's been healed 100%. So I'm going to ask you, does it matter on what day she got healed? But that just goes to show you the heart of man. The heart of man is evil. Here they witnessed a miracle, something beautiful, something that they should have been astonished at. They should have wondered, who is this person? The only person, according to that story, who glorified God was that woman. Everybody else was upset. And if you continue to read that story, it actually even goes as far as saying that they threw him out of the synagogue. In other words, you can get healed on any other day, just don't get healed on this day. Now, remember, for those of you guys that believe in the Sabbath, who still celebrate the Sabbath, that's fine. But Sabbath was made for man, not man for Sabbath. And I'm going to say that again. Sabbath was made for man. Man for what? For rest. That's all it means, just to rest. Relax. You guys work 6 days. Relax. But during that time, they had turned the Sabbath into something that wasn't meant to be. And that's why they got upset. According to this book, do you know why they crucified Jesus? Only for one reason. Because he healed on the Sabbath. He broke the Sabbath. That's why. That doesn't sound very religious at all, does it? And when I began to read this book, it began to tenderize my heart. It helped me see things a lot different. That many times that when you do something good, not everybody's going to be happy. I like this quote that says, be careful of those who do not clap when you win. Because those people that claim they're your friends, they're not your friends. Let us move on. So here we have, once again, let me just recap the first boy. Severe evil spirit. He went into convulsions or suffered from epilepsy where he had seizures. He foamed at the mouth. He couldn't hear. He couldn't speak. He was getting thrown into the fire. And here this woman had a spirit of infirmity where she was sick for 18 years, hunched over, where she could never, ever sit up. Now just think about this. These people, other than maybe the first boy, this woman didn't act like she was demonically possessed, but this evil spirit was there and crippled her. I believe sometimes, I'm not going to say all the times, sometimes, and I want to be very careful when I say this, when the doctors cannot find out what is wrong with you, it could be a spiritual condition. Just chew on that one for a little bit. Let us go to the next one. This is the book of Acts. If you want to read about Jesus, you have to read about it. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. That's what we call the Gospels. The Gospel just simply means the good news. So here now, the book of Acts, and I don't have time to explain who the Apostle Paul is. But at least I believe that the Apostle Paul wrote 14 books of the New Testament. 14 books of the New Testament. And they weren't called books then. They were called epistles. Epistles. Epistles is just a big word that means letters. These were just letters. So now, Acts was written by Luke, a disciple, who saw all of this. He was an eyewitness. This was an oral tradition where these stories were passed down. No, he actually saw it and wrote it. So now we're going to talk about the spirit of divination. So now, as it happened, and as he went up to prayer, this is the Apostle Paul, that a certain slave girl possessed with a spirit of divination met us, who brought her masters much profit by what? Fortune telling. So now you wonder where these people get their somewhat powers from, or for their fortune telling. She brought much profit. Let me read that again. That a certain slave girl possessed with a spirit of divination met us, who brought her masters much profit by fortune telling. This is Acts chapter 16 through 19. And once again, we are talking about demonic possession. This girl followed Paul and us and cried out, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High, who proclaim to us the way of salvation. And this she did for many days. Why would she do that? If she was demonically possessed by this spirit of divination, why would she go around saying, these men are men of God and they bring salvation to us? Why would she say that? I'll tell you why. Because the devil thinks he's slick. All that this person was trying to do was tap into that market. Tap into that market. I won't mention no names, but there's a big market for people that like to listen to Christian music. Okay? And many times you get these rappers that all of a sudden say, I was raised in the church and I want to do a Christian album. So they do a Christian album, then they come back and start doing their gangster music. Why did they do that? Because they know there's a market and they just wanted to tap into it. Now I got the Christian market, I got the street market, I got this market. So this person was going around acting like if she was a part of them, if you will, almost proclaiming, these men bring us to salvation. So now people see her not only bringing much profit, fortune telling, but also she's with them. Wow, she must know the way or have a way. It brings more income for her and her masters. So now, and this she did for many days. But Paul, greatly annoyed, this is the Apostle Paul, a disciple, turned and said to the spirit. He didn't speak to the woman, he spoke to the spirit, because this is a spiritual problem. I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. So he spoke to the spirit. And he came out that very hour. Now listen to this. But when her masters saw that their hope of profit was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to the authorities. In other words, after that spirit was cast out, that evil spirit, that spirit of divination, that fortune-telling spirit, she could no longer flick her cards or roll the dice or throw her chicken bones and tell you anything. Because it was gone. And it was all about money. Because even her master saw that she couldn't do it anymore. So they grabbed them, took them to the authorities. And you know what happened? They ended up going to jail. Imagine going to jail for casting out an evil spirit and helping a woman, setting her free. You go into the county jail. What you here for, man? Cast out a demon. Really? Yeah. Cast out a demon. Well, how did that happen? Well, you know, she couldn't fortune tell anymore. She couldn't flick her cards anymore. You know, she couldn't do her potions anymore. And her master said that, you know what, I ruined this business. So now I'm here. That's what happened. I've given you guys 3 examples, and I can continue to go on. But I've given you guys 3 examples of demonic possessions. So it's not always what we see on TV, The Exorcist or, you know, The Conjuring or Insidious. If this book is true, I just given you 3 examples, so use it. So once again, this is Acts chapter 16, verses 16 through 19. So now let's elaborate a little bit about that. Are there people that can see, or at least tell you your future or a fortune? You know, who am I going to meet? Am I going to be married? Am I going to have a job? And understand that these evil spirits that are in these people have been around since day one. They've done seen it all. You know, there are people that say, you know, I'm a pimp, I'm a Mac, you know, I'm a hustler. You want to know who's the pimp of all pimps and the Mac of all Macs and the hustler of all hustlers? It's Lucifer himself. It's Lucifer himself. So you're not going to out Mac or outdo or out hustle anybody. So this person was demonically possessed with the spirit of divination and will be able to tell you certain things about, and the majority of the time, the things that they tell you, you already know. You already know. But you know what's so funny to me about that? And I find this a bit humorous. There's only so much that these spirits can tell you. There's only so much. And I'm going to prove it. Name me one psychic, one fortune teller that has ever won the lottery. But they are quick to give you a lotto number. They can't tell the future. They could just tell you things that they already know because those evil spirits know who you are. So, hopefully, you guys got something out of that because I sure did. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. Let me go ahead and connect this and hopefully. Okay. We're going to put the phone lines in. Okay. Am I connected, you guys? Okay. Okay. And call in anybody and ask me whatever you want. I'm probably only going to take maybe about 30 minutes of phone calls. I'm not. and we'll go from there. Anybody that wants to call in? Okay, here we go. Okay. I had a drop call right now. If not, then I will just elaborate on, let me see. Here we go. Caller, your name and where are you calling from?
Andrew from Wichita, Kansas.
How are you doing tonight, man? Thank you for taking time and giving us a call.
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. You have a question, comment, story?
Oh yes, the Book of Enoch.
Yes.
The Book of Enoch.
What about it?
You guys got to tell us more about the Book of Enoch. Why is it erased? Why is it blocked out? Why don't they teach it?
Well, okay. Let me give you my best answer, okay? And then I'll bring this up again next Friday when my co-host is here, Marvelous Inc. When he's here, we'll bring this up. There are books that people say they should have been canonized. And when I say canonized, that it should have been included in the scriptures. Okay. Enoch was mentioned in the book of Genesis from the very, very beginning. And according to the story, he was taken up before the flood, meaning he never, ever died. Okay. It would have been hard if that book was written before he was taken up to have some type of original fragments of either the scroll, the parchment, or whatever leaf he might have written it in. So now, once again, this is before the flood. If he wrote it before the flood, that means that Noah should have had it with him, preserved it. Okay. Now, I believe it's either the book of James or the book of Jude in the New Testament. They quote from it. So we do know that it did exist during the first century. We do know it did exist.
Correct.
I myself believe that there is a book, the book of Enoch, that does exist. Okay. I have seen with my own eyes every fragment of every Old Testament book from the Dead Sea Scrolls. I have seen some fragments of the New Testament. When I say fragments, pieces of parchment that the scribes will write the scriptures on. There has never been anything found yet of the book of Enoch. Now, the only book that I know is the one that's out in Barnes and Nobles and the one that's available now. I just cannot say 100% in confidence that that is the book when we have nothing to base it on. That's all I'm saying. I am not saying that it does not exist, because there is a book of Enoch and it was quoted. I just don't know if that is the book that they're quoting. I don't know if that helps you or not.
Okay. Now voice my opinion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so from what all you just said, what's the difference from all the other books that are in the Bible or the so-called Bible that we are teaching today? What's the difference? What's the difference?
What do you mean? I don't understand your question. What's the difference between what again?
The Bible that we are taught today, right?
Right.
All the books, Genesis, James, etc., right?
Yes.
This is, how can you tell me this is like the truth, but you want to exclude the book of Enoch?
Well,
how can you tell me that?
Well, I'm not excluding it. I told you that I do believe that there is a book that exists, the book of Enoch. I do believe that. I just don't believe that the one that's available now is the book that they are quoting from in the Bible. That's what I am saying. That's what I said. I do believe that there is a book of Enoch. I just, like, for an example, let me just give you the best example that I can give you. In the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, they have an entire scroll that was found in the first century by a shepherd boy. Actually, it was dates back to the first century by a shepherd boy in 1967. And every scroll except the book of Esther was found. Every scroll. The only scroll that was found in its entirety is the book of Isaiah. And that's the book that actually talks about the coming Messiah. Okay, now, the entire scroll was there, and it's written in Hebrew. Now, if you want your King James, 1611 Bible, and you take it, and you know how to read Hebrew, you can read it word for word, word for word, word for word. That's why I always tell people to study it in its original language. So now here's my question, and I don't think a lot of people understand this. After the Tower of Babel and people's languages were confused and they spoke different languages, my question is now, what language did Enoch speak? Well, I'm sorry, because there was only one language before the Tower of Babel, and he was before. So what language did he speak, and what language was that book written in? And if we found it today, would we be able to translate that? And this is before the Tower of Babel, before the flood. So that's what I'm asking. So, or did somebody else write Enoch's story? Those are my questions, I guess, for scholars that I would like myself to know.
Just like any original scripture.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, just like any original scripture, right? You have to question that as well, just like the book of Enoch, just like what you're telling me.
Yeah, like what language? Because the world at that time was of one language. And we don't know what language that was. We can only speculate, but we don't know. So
exactly, just like the book of Enoch.
Right.
Exactly. You're answering your own question.
Yeah, I think I am. Okay, brother. So did you have another question or anything, or?
That was my main question, the book of Enoch.
All good. You know what? But we'll pick up on it next week as well. We'll pick up on it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Likewise. Okay, let's keep it going. Let's see. Okay. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Hi, hello?
Yes. Caller.
Hi, is this Tony A?
Yes.
Hi, Tony. Hi, I'm a fan. Some of the Bible, I know I'm not too learned on the Bible, but I know the Bible was written by many different people. I like to think the Bible is one of those books that people try to perfect, they try to perfect that story. It's been worked on by many people, and the translations are just, they do change over time, so it's kind of hard to know exactly what the original intent was.
Well, many people believe the way you believe. I used to believe that as well. I realized that how my journey started with this, and believe me, I don't try to push this on anyone at all, because it never works that way. Because when I was younger, I had people try to push it on me, and I rejected it. As a matter of fact, I began to hate it, and that's where, after studying history for so long, and when I was given that book, my King James Bible, I read it to try to discredit it. That's why I started reading it. And I found out that the more and more and more I dug, it led me to start reading it in its original language. And the more and more I read, I just couldn't deny that everything that I was seeing was at least truth to me. So I respect, what you're saying, your opinion, but I also have to tell you that I also understand, because I was once there as well. So whenever somebody tells me I don't agree with you, believe me, that is perfectly fine. And I totally understand that, because we will never get anywhere arguing with each other, but we have to understand each other and at least hear each other out and why we feel and think this way. Because keep in mind, I was there myself. So But, you know,
No, yeah, I definitely don't. I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm not saying I don't believe what people say. I'm not even saying I don't believe what the Bible says. I'm just saying I it's just one of those books like there's so much like history and knowledge and like human truths in it that it's kind of hard to deny. That's kind of all I'm saying. It's just a comment, not a.
It's okay. You know what? I'm glad you called, and I'm glad you shared that, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way, and I welcome them to call. You know, that is one thing that I have every religious friends, a lot of religious friends, and a lot of them would have argued with you and shut the door. But what if, let's just say what if you were searching and you really wanted to know, and you came to people that knew, but their attitude was just rotten and they closed the door on you? That would possibly provoke you to never ever want to research or to ask again, because of their attitude.
True.
So, but thank you for taking your time and calling and being a part of the show tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate this conversation.
All right. Have a blessed night. All right. Okay. You know what? I want somebody to call if you guys ever, since we're talking about demonic possession, if any of you guys have ever experienced a demonic possession. Not necessarily that you have been, but have seen it. Call it your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up? It's Levitt Jones. Calling from Linwood.
What's up, Levitt Jones? From
28.
Yes, sir.
I got a freaky tale to tell you.
Yes, sir. Share it.
Just randomly today, my YouTube, it recommended episode 25 of Freaky Tales when you brought on the witch. You remember?
Yes.
When Ruben called in at the end?
Yes.
You remember that one?
Oh, I remember it. I do.
So remember when she was talking about how her doll didn't want to be there, didn't want to get off at your house? It was just tripping me out today because I know you've always spoke on the word. I know you have, you read it like a history book. But, you know, I think a lot of people hearing your show, we feel this kind of, not attraction, but we always want to seek the truth. And we know the truth is with Jesus. But it was just tripping me out today how she was mentioning that the doll didn't want to be around, you know, your house, that it didn't want to get off in the truck, that it didn't want to be there. Because I'm going to be honest with you, like, even Pastor Rocha said it, like, you're bringing the word, and like in the book of John, it said, the word was with God, and the word is God, you know? And the word is the truth. So I was just freaking out. Like, I was not freaking out, but I was like tripping out on it. I was freaking out, thinking about how literally, like, you're bringing the word little by little, and it's coming out of you. Especially having all the past guests that you've had, like Pastor David Rocha and every other guest, that you guys always speak on the word. And I just wanted to bring that out there because it was kind of tripping me out today. That, like, it clicked, because I love to hear your shows, but especially that episode today, it was like the witch was just like, the doll didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? How did you feel? How did you feel during that episode?
You know, one thing that I've learned in my 20s, okay? One thing that I've read a lot, that I've read a lot in the scriptures, where it would say, fear not. Fear not. And you know how many fear nots are actually in the Bible?
I have no idea.
How many days are in a year? Do you know?
364, 65.
365 fear nots are in the Bible. One for each day of the year. So,
amen.
That doll right there, I don't care if it was Chucky or Leprechaun, that doll was not going to scare me. I don't care if it was Annabelle. I know who I am, and stuff like that does not intimidate me. Evil could only reside when you fear it and you open up that door. I don't fear.
Yes, sir.
So that dog could have felt all the uncomfortable that she felt. I don't care, So I'm not one that is scared easy. So
Yes, sir.
hopefully that answers your question. So, and I believe that that's the attitude that people should have.
No, yeah, that was just a freaky tale because I never wanted to listen to that episode because of the witch and how she was talking about she sold her soul so openly and whatnot. And like you mentioned the episode before, like we really have to invoke Jesus' love and not accept people but love them. Like you mentioned with the LGBT people,
right?
Like love them and show them compassion. Like that's to me the truth of what Jesus taught, like Jesus taught love, truth, and forgiveness. And we can't really hate nobody because then we become the oppressors. Like we're the oppressed and we become the oppressors. And that's not what Jesus taught. Right. And we don't also want to become Pharisees. I feel like a lot of people get turned off by the church because in the church people become Pharisees, like they just want to judge. Like you said earlier, just because Jesus healed on the Sabbath, good comes in all shapes and forms on any kind of day, Jesus. But back to the story, I just wanted to bring that up. It was a freaky tale because I was just tripping out on how that doll was. I never wanted to hear that story, and I listened to it today. And honestly, like what you're talking about more and more every episode, it's like I just want to give you praise and in Jesus' name, I want to pray for you. And God bless you, Tony.
All right, my brother. You stay blessed. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. I just want people to know that this is not a religious channel, so please respect that. Hello, caller. Your name and where are you calling from?
I appreciate that. I just want people to know.
Nestor from Guadalajara.
From Guadalajara. ¿Le puedes bajar a la tele?
Yeah. There you go.
Ernesto, how are you tonight, man? Thank you for taking your time and calling.
Oh, man, I'm pretty good, man. Just here chilling, hanging out.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Well, out here in Guadalajara, we didn't really celebrate it. So it was just normal,
Okay. So go ahead, brother. You had a story?
Yeah, I have a story and then I have a question. But yeah, so when I moved out here to Guadalajara, there's a church like 2 houses down.
Mm-hmm.
And then like one morning I kept hearing people screaming, but I guess I was like, whatever, it's probably normal right here. And then it was going on for a long time. And then next thing you know, I go outside and I'm like, what's going on, man? And I guess it was one of my neighbors, a little girl, like 14, 15. And she was possessed by whatever it was. I have a video of it on my Instagram. I'll send it to you later.
Por favor.
And then, yeah. And then she kept saying a name. She kept saying Yakusev. She kept saying that. And then the priest didn't let her in the church. He didn't let her in. And there was a couple guys talking to her. They had her on the ground. Some guy kept talking to her belly button. Some other guy kept talking to her ear. And then the other ones were holding her down. And then, like, after, 20, 30 minutes of them talking to her, she just started crying, Like normal, like a little girl, like a normal 14-year-old girl. And I guess that's when, they took a demon out of her. And I was like, dang. But I recorded it, though.
Okay. Yeah, please. I would definitely like to see it. Because I know, and this is a Catholic church, correct?
Yeah, Catholic. Uh-huh.
I don't know how true this is because I was told this back in the 90s. And this was maybe around 96, I was told. And I had spoke to a priest about demonic possession because, believe it or not, after reading so much about it, I was intrigued by it. Not that I saw it fascinating, but I just wanted to know what the Catholic Church stance was on demonic possession. Now, he had said in the United States that when they believe a person is demonically possessed, that they run a lot of tests on them first, psychological tests. And that usually takes about 6 months. Now, this is what this priest told me. And then if they can confirm that she's demonically possessed, then they have to contact the Vatican, and the Vatican will send somebody to perform the exorcism.
Man, that's crazy.
Yes, that's what I thought. And I was just like, man, isn't that kind of like putting somebody's life on hold? You know, but, you know, we never know because, you know, the sad part is, man, that there's a lot of people out there that are on drugs and they act like they're demonically possessed, but really they're just high out of their mind. So.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, Tony, the part that, like, the main part was that she was playing the Ouija board the night before.
Oh.
And then, like, yeah, she was playing the Ouija board, and then, like I said, I woke up, all that crazy noise, and then I was like, what? And I recorded it, and like I told her, I have the video. Everybody's scared. They're like, what? And I was like, man. But yeah, eventually they helped her out or whatever.
Yeah.
She's still around. She's my neighbor.
Awesome. You know, that's a great thing, man, that she's still there. You know, let me share something. In the movie The Exorcist, are you familiar with that movie?
Oh, yeah. I just watched it last week.
Okay. My question was, and I was on another podcast where this guy, he's a horror, if you will, scholar when it comes to horror movies. And I asked him, because the girl's name was Reagan, the girl who was demonically possessed. And I said, do you recall how she became possessed? Maybe what door she opened? And he couldn't put it together. And I said, in the very beginning, when they were in the basement, she was showing her mom the Ouija board that she found and she was playing with it. And the Ouija board actually even moved by itself in that one scene. And he never thought about that. He goes, I would have thought about that. A lot of people miss that part. I believe that the director or the writer used that to share that possibly that was the door that opened to this demonic spirit to come in. And now you're telling me this. That could have been the door that allowed that evil spirit to come in. So.
Yeah, last part, so she's a girl, and then the spirit was saying a bunch of bad words in Spanish, like he was saying, I remember he was saying, chinga tu madre, esa alma es mía, and I was like, bro, what the hell?
Yeah, they do talk like that. They do. So when you get a chance, send it to me. I would definitely like to look at it.
Yeah, I got you. I'll send it to you right now.
Okay, brother. Thank you. Have a blessed night all the way from
Thank
Mexico.
you, Tony.
All right.
You too.
Okay, let's keep it pushing. Anybody got another story like that they would like to share? Call your name and where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello, Tony.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Where are you calling from?
We're calling from Canada again.
Oh, Canada. Okay. How are things over there?
Cold as hell. No, I mean cold just in general.
Okay. So you had a question, a comment, or a story?
Yeah. So both my parents, they grew up differently, like Catholic, but then they turned Christian. But they both had their own experiences. Like my mother, she played with a Ouija board when she was younger, and she told me how, you know, she wasn't a believer and she was just playing around with her friends, and that she got really scared because there were certain questions that she asked the Ouija board, and basically told her like reality of her life. So she basically didn't say goodbye to the board or something. And years later, she converted to Christianity. And then my father, the same thing. He had an addiction to drugs and also like to rock music and, you know, just really like satanic music. And throughout the years, I've experienced some like paranormal things in my own life that I'm just wondering, you know, like, how do I get rid of it? Or like, I don't know, like, is this thing gonna like kind of affect me like for the rest of my life? Because yeah, there are things that are happening to my home that are just like noises or door slamming. You know, like it's not that I'm walking around with fear, but at the same time, you know, like I know what not to mess with, you know, because of their teachings. But at the same time, I feel like they open doors. Yes. And you know how they say in the Bible that when you're cursed 3 generations. So I'm just kind of thinking like how do I get rid of it, or what do I do?
Okay, well, I have a couple of questions for you. How long have you been living there in that home?
Well, recently I just moved, but when I was living at my old home, and it was with my father who listened to the rock music, it was about 5 years. And when he moved, it was actually 4 years ago. So I lived there 1 year without him being there with my grandparents. And the door would open in the basement randomly. And my grandparents are Christian too, so they would be praying all the time. But every single time when they would go out to pray or to church, it would only be me at home, and the door would open. And I wouldn't hear anything coming out from there, but I would just hear that the door would open. So I'd go and I would slam it closed, and for some reason it would just keep opening itself, and I would actually experience sleep paralysis a lot being in that home.
Okay, so you left that home. Now you have your own place, and then these things are still happening, correct?
Not the sleep paralysis, but yes, I do hear noises in the closet.
Okay, because it's from what you're telling me, it kind of sounds like, and I said, from what little information you're giving me, it sounds like whatever it is, it followed you. So it doesn't necessarily mean if you go get another big home and you move that it's gonna leave. It sounds, and I said again, it sounds like something is following you. Now, who else are you? I mean, are you living with someone right now?
Yeah, currently I'm actually living with my boyfriend and his parents separately. They are going to church, and they're also like believers too. But okay. Me and my boyfriend, we're not. I can't say we're Christians, but we do believe in God, and like we believe in the Word. We're just kind of like lost, you could say.
Okay. The reason why I'm saying this because let me just share a quick story with you. Had a female friend that bought her own home, and she knew that she wasn't going to be able to afford it. So what she did, she invited another girlfriend to come live and help her. You could pay rent, but I'm the owner of the house type of deal. So she was renting out a room to her. After she said, as soon as she moved in, so many things started happening. Things started going wrong, noises, stuff like that. And after a very long story short, she started snooping around her friend's room. And whether people want to believe this or not, I believed it because I seen the pictures. She went into her closet, and her closet was her prayer room where she would light candles, cut herself, and she found a satanic pentagram, a Baphomet, what she was praying to.
Oh.
Okay, so
what?
Yes, so that's why I say, you know what, be very, very careful who you allow in your house. Now, sometimes, and again, I'm just taking a shot in the dark, okay, because these things can happen. It could be something that you might have bought, used, and brought home and didn't know what it was used in before or who had it before. I do believe that certain things attract certain evil spirits. I'll give you an example. There's a museum out here. It's called the Zach Baggins Museum out in Las Vegas. This guy went out of his way and bought what he calls, I guess, relics. Let's just say there was a guy named John Wayne Gacy, was a real killer. And he bought the actual pot that this guy would cook people in.
Jeez.
Like just to make a museum out of it. He has the suit that Richard Ramirez wore, the Night Stalker, when he was in court, or his shoes, who would want that? So a lot of times people buy things either, I don't know what they're called over there. I heard they're called swamp meets, they're called flea markets, where you go buy used stuff. A lot of times they just bring it home and don't even realize what they brought home. A lot of times they can invite a friend over and don't even know what's attached to that person, and then that whatever's attached to that person could stay there in your home. My
Oh
thing,
my gosh.
my thing for me is this, and this doesn't have to be for everyone, but just for me, I would pray over my entire home.
Mhm.
Because let me tell you something,
Right.
and this just comes from experience, and this comes from close friends. At first, they were trying to embrace these so-called spirits, thinking that they were angels. And eventually, these things began to get hostile on the family because they got comfortable there. So whatever it is, I would just recommend that you guys pray over your home. That's the only thing that
Right. And
I
is
would
it-
do. So other people would say, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'd sage it, and I'd have opened up the windows and play music and tell them to leave or
No,
whatnot."
no.
For me, that's what I would do. So
And the thing is too, like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off or to like make this too long, but my dad had, like I said, he had a huge thing with music, with rock and like heavy metal, and I'm not trying to like say that music is like all trash, but I'm just saying like very satanic music. And now that I've moved out, it's like I still have like records and like a bunch of records actually in that closet with different types of music, like rap, hip hop, like everything you can think of,
yes,
So I don't know, is it a thing with the music or like?
some music I would say I just don't want to say yes in general to all of it, because I can't. But I mean, if you feel, I guess, the conviction to like, let me just get rid of this, then you do it. But I just myself could never tell anyone what to do. I would just tell them what I would do, and
Right.
I would start with praying over my home.
Okay, thank you so much. I
got it.
appreciate it.
You got it. Take care now. Have a blessed one. Okay, we're gonna take a couple of more phone calls because I don't know why I ate dinner before the show and I'm still hungry. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
What up, Tony? Calling from Yonkers, New York.
Yonkers, New York, the hometown of the son of Sam.
Yes, of course.
What's good, my brother?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
I was not to get off subject. I know that I have a cousin that would play the Ouija board, right?
Yes.
And she played it, and shortly after, man, she was acting up crazy, man. Crazy. She would have episodes where her eyes roll back and it wasn't normal, She would state names of family members that were her great grandma, our great grandma. She would say her name and make it seem like it was our great grandma talking,
Yeah.
And it got out of hand, She'll have episodes in the middle of the street, acting crazy in front of people. Like, damn, man, what are you doing? And until her father, finally got like one of these dudes from the Catholic Church and did something to her and whatever. And sure enough, it went away, but it was due to her playing that Ouija board, I feel. And not only that, her parents were breaking up. We're having a hard time between her parents. We were like about to split up. So I feel like all that had came together for her to act up like that and play the Ouija board. And I guess it stands for weakness. And that I guess it's no joke. If you play that shit's gonna.
And here's the thing that I want people to understand. I'm just going to reiterate what I said earlier, is that game was not meant for us to contact whoever's on the other side. It was meant for them to contact us. We don't know what door or portal we opened for them and who came in. We don't know. But yet we're so curious to see if this thing moves by itself that we play it. And we don't realize that something might have already came in and is in your room standing behind you while you're saying, oh, this game doesn't work. We don't
Absolutely.
know, but a lot of people want to continue to play with stuff like this. Somebody wanted to give me a so-called wooden collector's edition Ouija board. And I said, what the hell? I'll be honest with you. He goes, oh, just use it for decoration. Keep it right there on your table. Speaking of this table. And I'll be honest with you. I just say, hell no. Why would I even want to bring that? Oh, he said, oh, we just bought this house and we found it in the attic and it looks mint condition. You sure you don't want it for your show? It's wooden and it looks really neat and you never know. It might move while you're having a show. And he just thought it could be a nice prop. I don't care. I don't want that junk here. I don't want nothing to do with stuff like that. Now, some people will say, oh, you're blowing it out of proportion. Maybe so, but guess what? I don't want that here. You keep it at your house. So that's all I'm saying, man. But I do believe, in my opinion, that game is not a game but will open doors to something that a lot of you are not aware what it can do. It could attach to your children. It could attach to your wife. It could be attached to whatever and stay there and then wonder why all hell's breaking loose in your family. Because one thing that I've learned that these entities, that these evil spirits are here to steal, kill, and destroy. They'll destroy your family. They'll destroy your life. They'll destroy your home. And then you wonder, how did it all happen? So.
No, I hear that. Hey, another thing, Tony, you were talking about the end of times, the book of Revelations, right?
Yes.
And sure enough, man, everything is coming. If we thought before, when I was growing up, we thought before, man, it's coming. No, it's coming even more. Nowadays, man, people are killing just to kill.
Yes.
I live in New York, man. These dudes are killing, shooting just to shoot. They don't care who's there. They don't care if there's a little kid there, or they don't care. They just shoot to shoot. Like, yo, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
And
I agree.
The industry of the homos. They're coming. Yo, now they want I watch soccer, so now soccer. So in the soccer games, we when the goalie hits the ball, the opposite goalie hits the ball, we say puto, right? All the audience, all everybody in the stadium says puto. So now if we say that in the stadium, yo, Mexico could get disqualified. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Yo, that's how much they could get fined. They gotten fined. Mexico already got fined for saying that in their stadiums. Well, then there's when we say puto,
yes,
that means obviously puto means gay in
right
in English,
Yes.
But
no,
it's getting crazy out here.
No, I agree, bro. And you know what? And here's my thing. When I shared earlier about drugs, Pharmakia, let me just give the audience how far we have come, okay? I was born in 1968, okay? And growing up, smoking marijuana, you had to grow that yourself. You had to buy it. Back then, it was just called weed. It didn't have, crazy names today, like whatever they call it, designer weed, where it has flavors. It was just weed, in Spanish, zacate or mota. That's as far as we went. And it was illegal. People would do time for selling weed, okay? If you would have told me as a 10 or 11-year-old boy, one day they're going to have stores where you could just go in there and buy all the weed you want because it's going to be available and the government's going to allow people to sell it legally, I would have said, you are crazy. That will never, ever happen. Hey, it's happened in my lifetime. It's happened in my lifetime. Do I believe that drugs are going to play a role in these last days? Absolutely. Look at how many kids have just died from these fentanyl pills. And the drugs just getting worse and worse and worse. And a lot of these hospitals are killing people with these prescribed drugs. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So I don't want to care. I don't care to elaborate on that too much because I've had dear friends that were having back pain, went to the doctor, they injected them with something, and they lost their mind. They never came back the same. And one of my friends actually told me, they did something to me, man. I'm not the same. And this same friend ended up committing suicide days later.
Yo.
Okay?
That's serious?
That's how serious it got. I've always said to my children, hey, if I'm dying, don't take me to no hospital. Don't take me to no hospital. You know what they were doing to a lot of these COVID patients? We're going to put you in an induced coma. You have to sign for it. It's a 50-50. You may not come out of it.
And there's still unanswered questions behind that. It's nothing clear behind that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was one of my buddies. Yeah, one of my buddies. They were about to put him in a coma, and his wife and his son drove him to the hospital. And then he said, "Okay, let's do it. You said it's a 50-50, right?" And he goes, "Yes." He said, "Let me go say goodbye to my wife and my kids." And you know what they said? No, that's over with. You can't go back out there. That's what they told him. And he just started crying because he thought it was the end of his life. Luckily, honestly, he was able to snap out of it. Luckily. But can you imagine driving and your mother or your sister or your girlfriend or your wife, your loved one, and you say, you know, can I just go say goodbye since you're putting me in a coma? And then they say no. In other words, them dropping you off was your goodbye. So
yeah,
that's deep, man. That's deep. So, okay, my brother, I have to let you go, but I'm glad you called.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. One last thing though.
Yes.
I feel like if you're getting like paranormal stuff in you, man, just pray, man. That's it, man. And just I feel like someone is gonna protect you, man. Pray to somebody you love, and they're gonna protect you.
Absolutely.
So, yo, man, I always listen to your show, and man, keep doing it, bro. Cause I stay watching, man. Over here in New York, we be watching it, man.
Thank you, my bro. Thank you. Have a blessed night. It's 12 o'clock over there in New York, and he's up. Okay, let me see. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
The name's Fred. I'm calling from Soledad, California, brother.
Fred. Is this Fred Segura?
Yeah. Correct. Fred. You are correct. How you doing, brother?
I'm blessed.
Cool. Nice. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I just wanted to call you, man. I'm a little late on it because I got busy with other stuff, but I wanted to call because you touched on a lot of things on this podcast tonight. You're doing a great job, bro. Trust me.
Thank you.
It took me back. No, you're welcome. I mean, it really took me back to a lot. There's a lot of stuff I really would like to get into, but I'll get into one specific thing that you brought up today that I experienced myself.
Yes.
Ironically, the day on November 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving of 1999, my mother underwent brain surgery to remove a tumor on the right side of her brain. Okay, she's passed on now. She passed on in 2011, but this is 1999.
Yes.
God rest her soul.
Rest in peace.
Thank you. So what happened was, at that moment in time, I remember I was in the lobby waiting to, stressed out, obviously. And the doctor came out, and no, before the doctor came out, I said, I'm a believer, but at the time it was like, I'm kind of like, I want to say in limbo, but I'm just kind of like, I don't go to church like I should.
Right.
So anyhow, I made this promise. I prayed however I could because I know he listens. I said to myself, you know what? I prayed to him and I said, listen, if you get it through this, I will thank you every day. Like I will thank you every day.
Yes.
So, she got through it. Long story short, she had to go into a convalescent home for a little bit for rehab and stuff, or rehabilitation. Excuse me, rehabilitation, not rehab. And anyhow, so I brought her home to take care of her myself. This is in February 11th of 2000.
Yeah.
I brought her home to take care of her, myself. People said, "Do you know what you're getting into?" I didn't care. I brought her home. A few months later, and mind you, she became a vegetable. Her mind was, I'll get into the details. That's another time. But excuse me. I questioned, like, why did I do this? This isn't a way to have life. Like, I didn't know what was going on. A few months later, after bringing her home, I took her to the doctor to an appointment where she was starting to acknowledge stuff. She remembered my birthday. She was starting, little things were coming back. So I took her to the doctor, and the doctor, I remember, he was looking at his clipboard, sitting down, and he had his hand up, and he wasn't even looking at me. He was just sitting there in the office, right? And I was sitting there like, okay, what's up? Like, and he goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I freaked out, like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Like, I said, well, I get up, I make sure, I bathe her and stuff in the morning, and then, give her, feed her breakfast so I could give her medication, lunch, dinner, and her medication throughout the day. Like, I'm basically, I'm telling them the truth, but I'm covering my tail. You know what I mean? To be like, well, I'm not doing nothing wrong.
Right.
And he's done looking at the clipboard with his hands up, like he doesn't know what's up. And he said, he goes, "You know what, man?" He goes, "I ask you this because her memory's coming back. And this wasn't supposed to happen." He goes, "I can't explain it." He goes, "But whatever it is that you're doing, dude, keep doing it." And she made 100% recovery, bro.
Wow.
She made 100% recovery. So,
wow.
That's the short version. Like always, bro. That's the short version because I know we're due for time.
Of course.
But I wanted to share that with you tonight. You know what I mean? I wanted to share that with you tonight because you touched on it earlier, bro. And maybe there's skeptics out there that think like, oh, whatever. It happened to me. I lived it.
Yes.
And I'm living proof. And that made me a believer, like even more solid because he proved that he exists. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So there's more to it, bro. But I want to thank you for that, for your time.
Absolutely.
And continue to, and continue on, bro. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. You have a blessed night.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay, we'll take one more phone call, Alex, and then we'll give that poll. So we'll take one more phone call. Caller, your name, and you are the last caller.
Hey, what's going on, Tony? It's Lawrence from West Texas.
Yes, I could barely hear you. You sound a little muffled.
Okay. How about now?
Perfect. From West Texas.
I wanted to touch on earlier. You spoke about the Satanic Temple bringing the kid program to school.
Yes, that's what's trending right now. So I brought it up.
Yeah. Then two things about that. As I told you before, I don't speak for all Satanists, but
Right.
one of the main things of a precept that's common amongst most Satanists is they don't proselytize. We've never had to hide under car shows or carnivals or, sell raffle tickets to get our message across. In short, we're not out looking for people. If you're not already like-minded and participating in some of the things we're doing, we're really fine with you going off and doing your own thing. So the guy that's doing this, his name is Lucian Greaves. He runs the Satanic Temple. I actually wrote an article about these people about 8 years ago. They were trying to put a statue in front of the Oklahoma City courthouse, and it was a big Baphomet statue.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Did that ever happen? There? Did that ever happen though?
Well, no, I don't think they were ever successful in doing that. They have been taking the statue to various cities and rallying, behind it, trying to get it put up here and there.
Yes.
But that goes back to what I was saying. We're not interested in assimilating with mainstream society. We don't look for acceptance. We don't want to be like, hey, here I am too. Come and accept us. Come and be with us. That's totally. I don't know where this guy comes off doing that. It's becoming like a religious pissing contest, is what it is. It's like, here's the 10 Commandments, but we're going to bring a statue. Well, where does it stop? Do we have a statue of Muhammad later? Do we have a statue of, whoever the alien that the Tom Cruise worships? I mean, Xenu or whatever.
Yes.
Does it keep going and going? there's certain places in in society where religion just shouldn't be there, and I think government is one, and public school is another. In the second place, if I wanted my child to learn about any religious or philosophical precepts, I would teach them myself. I'm not going to rely on the school system to do it for me. The school system fails in so many avenues, from sex ed to just regular education. I'm not going to really trust them to say, well, here's a prepackaged, program about Satanism. Have at it. I wouldn't want my kids learning that or being indoctrinated in any religion for that matter. So I'm against what they're doing there, because it sounds very far fetched. The stuff they're preaching is more, it's more political. If you look at the people that comprise this group, they're more like feminists and LGBTQ, that kind of protesters that do all that shit. They're not at all what we would consider productive, rational people. So they're off doing their own thing, which is all good, but that's just far from what I would say most Satanists are about. We're not looking for converts and out there proselytizing and trying to win people's children. That's just not something we do.
Yeah, if I were to ask you and maybe just take a stab at it or take a guess at it, why do you think they're doing that? Do you think they're looking for converts?
Well, it is a money-making scheme when it's all said and done. The guy who's gonna benefit the most out of this is the leader. His name is Lucien Graves. And anybody out there who wants to look this group up and know more about it, he runs a Satanic temple, and it's more of a high school cliquish type of group. It's not at all something you'd expect even from a religious sect or a philosophical group of people. It's more like a little clique, like a high school clique, and people that like to dress up in costumes. And that's basically what it is.
Okay. Well, you know what, man? I'm glad you called and clarified that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hey, I'm enjoying the show, and I just thought I'd touch on that, and I'm enjoying some of the things you're bringing up. It's good food for thought. Thank you,
and I greatly appreciate it. You have a good night now.
All right, thank you. You too.
Okay, that was our last caller. Okay, that was it. Okay, let me take off these pretty little headphones. Alex, can you give us the poll on that? Yes, the poll or whatever you guys got.
All right, hold on.
And by the way, once again, I appreciate that caller calling in and sharing his thoughts on that.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and take your time.
Okay, Freaky Tales right here. 359 votes.
Okay.
The question is, would you let your child join a satanic club at school? And 13% said yes.
Okay.
And 87% said no.
Okay. Well, we got to hear it from somebody that, went ahead and, actually wrote, I guess, an article about this person that was trying to have that Baphomet statue, out in Oklahoma, because I had heard about that. But, oh, well, glad it didn't happen. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Rock Bottom and the Dome dropped 199.
Thank you.
They said, if you have a chance, Tony, SLP paralysis tonight, 11 p.m. I don't know.
What's that?
SLP paralysis tonight, 11 p.m. I don't know what that means. Probably need to elaborate.
Either that or is that a podcast or?
I
Yeah.
don't know. I'll Google it right now.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Next Friday, we'll have Marvelous Inc. He'll be here. And I also want to give a shout out once again to my team for helping me promote this. I want to give a shout out to Alex Cervantes Enterprise. I also want to give a shout out to Norbert. We'll be back doing on my other podcast, News with Norbert. And my son, B. Scanless, for helping me promote this. And also the Hip Hop Jedi, who orchestrates everything with the Force. But other than that, I want to thank everybody in the live chat, everybody who liked, commented, subscribed, shared, everybody who called in. We greatly appreciate it. Like I said, I hope you guys had a blessed Thanksgiving. It's funny because when people call you from Canada and Mexico, you also want to ask them, how was your Thanksgiving? It's because you just think that everybody should be thankful. And I'm sure they are, but I don't know. Sometimes it slips my mind that it's a U.S. thing. So, other than that, I hope you guys had a blessed Thanksgiving. Have a blessed night. We'll see you guys here next Friday.